Evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter, Minnesota. It is Monday, September 23rd, 2024. At 7 p.m. we are called to order. Would all please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see, next up on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Everybody's received a copy. Are there any revisions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as distributed?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Everybody has a copy of the minutes. They appear on pages 6 through 7 of the packet. Are there any revisions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve as distributed?
Second.
All those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We have time on our agenda for visitor comments. Is there any visitor who'd like to address the council on an agenda item? Hearing none, we also have time for general comments. Is there a visitor who'd like to address the council on any matter whatsoever? Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins with the memo on page 8 of the packet and concludes with the resolution that's on page 32 of the packet. The resolution includes installation of a no outlet sign on North 3rd Street, north of St. Julian Street, to be approved. The installation of a no passing on right sign and traffic control delineators at the intersection of North Washington and Flandreau, to be approved. The following employee appointment: Liliana Figueroa, Community Service Officer, at a wage of $24 per hour. And the schedule of disbursements for September 5th, 2024 through September 18th, 2024. Is there any discussion or questions regarding any item on the consent agenda? I guess I'll just ask, because it is going to be so visible in our community, for a little more information about the no passing on right sign.
Madam Mayor, I defer to either the chief or to Pete on that matter. This really has to do with enforcement activities and challenges that we've seen, I think, more this year than ever in that area on Washington near North Elementary. So, Chief?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you, members of the council. In regards to that intersection, we've been challenged, and oftentimes you can see an officer directly in that intersection before and after school. What we have found and what we have observed and what we have taken enforcement on, as people are traveling north on North Washington, approaching Flandreau Street. Flandreau Street runs on the south side of North Intermediate. They're preparing to take a west-hand turn. So that traffic begins to stack up 1 to 2 vehicles. And now if there's a third vehicle that, well, they don't want to turn to go to North Elementary, they are going around those 2 vehicles. And on 2 occasions that we observed have come into the crosswalk when students are crossing to go west towards North Elementary. One particular incident was the person that stands in the middle of that street with a stop sign has actually been close enough to hit the car with the stop sign. So it's one of those, and Pete came up with a great idea of doing delineators, and we're gonna do some paint and some striping in that area, so when the delineators came down, if it is approved, that there will still be a natural flow to stay to 1 lane and really provide that safety that we've been seeking in there for the last maybe half a year, but certainly this year people seem to be more in a rush, and there's just more danger for our students at that intersection. So I want to thank Pete for his work and ideas about that. Yes, Josh?
So unlike the projects on 3rd Street and Front Street, the idea here is that this will be a more permanent installation for the time being, not necessarily coming down in October or being reinstalled in the spring after the snow.
And I would defer that from Pete, but in learning as much as I have from Pete, the delineators will come down as when we get into that snow removal, but we still will have the paint And certainly if that's covered by snow, maybe there could be some reflectors within that area. But yes, we're expected to take the delineators off of that intersection. And hopefully by that time, if council is in approval, there'll be some education within that, because really at the roadside with our enforcement, we're really trying to educate people. We think with the signs, in addition to the delineators and paint, people will understand no passing on right.
Sounds like a good partnership between PD and Public
Yes.
Works to identify a problem and come up with a solution that is hopefully going to
I've-
help our students be
Yes.
safe as they walk to
Yes.
school. Yeah,
Yes, I've learned a lot from Pete, that is for sure.
great. Any other questions on this or any other consent agenda item? Thank you.
And I'm very excited for our community service officer, by the way. Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, is there a motion to approve the resolution on page 32?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpström.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye. The resolution is approved. We have no items of unfinished business tonight, so we will move on to new business. The first item of new business is the adoption of a resolution approving the sale of 2024A general obligation bonds. And Shannon Sweeney is here to talk to us about that tonight. Thanks for coming to St. Peter, Shannon.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. About a month and a half ago, you initiated the process to sell bonds for a variety of needs, including the Pine, Klein, and Cullen Street projects, and some equipment purchases, the most significant of which are substation equipment for the refurb of an existing electrical substation. The total amount that was authorized at that time was $7,650,000, and ultimately we established today as the sale date. So this morning we did receive bids for the purchase of the bonds, and ultimately we received 5 bids, a couple of which were not traditional bidders unless we see some size, and this issue is of some size. And so ultimately the low bid submitted on this tabulation sheet that we handed out came from the Bank of New York Mellon Capital Markets at a interest rate of 3.4977%. On your preliminary schedule, that a month and a half ago when we set sail, we had said that this was going to cost us 3.7224%. And so interest rates, have come down a little bit. Frankly, last week mostly is when it's, some of it got priced into the market before that, but last week was helpful for selling a large bond issue like this. And so we performed better than projected. I think the competitive sale is a bit unique in that, in this instance, the spread between the low and the high bidder, and even the cover bid, is 10 basis points or 0.1%. And we usually don't see that kind of distance between bidders when we're buying bonds. And so I think that proves that our competitive sale probably worked in this instance, and we got somebody from the East Coast that was very interested in buying our bonds today. And so we do recommend awarding sale. If you're wondering what the difference is between that preliminary rate and this one, it's $229,564.78. So I'd like to take credit for every penny of that, but as you know, I don't, because someday it'll probably go the other way, and then I'll take the blame as well. But at the end of the day, we thought it was a good bid. It was a good sale. Staff did an excellent job responding to questions during the credit rating process. And so we feel the result was well-deserved. So more than happy to answer questions.
Thanks very much. Questions for Shannon? Brad?
So I'm not sure if it's so much Shannon as Sally. So when we did this budgeting last year, did we estimate about 5% on it at the time for interest rate at that?
What he had, on this one was 3.7.
Yeah, but I'm just saying when we were doing the budget process last year, I'm just saying it seems significant savings over what we had budgeted for it. So I think we did an excellent job. Obviously, your services are serving us well, as they always do. So.
If you really want to know that number, we can go look that up, but I don't know that we know
It's
that
not-
one off the
no,
top
it's
of
not
our
a
head.
priority.
But
I
it was
just
certainly
recall-
much higher than this.
Exactly.
And the
That- that-
environment was a different environment at that time.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying this is, very positive from where we were looking at last year when
Yep.
budgeting this, so.
Sure. Daryl?
What do we do with the bond premium? Are we keeping that, or is that going towards to pay down the debt?
We, yes to all that, partially. We had more premium than we cared to keep, and so some of that was used to reduce the size, and so you'll notice in the award resolution, we're approving an issue of $7,555,000, rather than the $7,650,000 that we set sail with.
95,000 took off.
Yeah, yes, and we are keeping approximately $300,000 in premium as contingency on our construction projects. If that is not needed, it will go to the debt service account, can be used to offset levies, used to cash flow, special assessments that come in on an erratic basis in some of our development areas, and so we did keep some of the premium.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing nothing further, the resolution approving for the providing for the issuance of sale of 7,650,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2024A, pledging for the security thereof, special assessments, and levying a tax for the payment thereof, appear on pages 34 through 53 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpsman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, adoption of a resolution approving the 4M Fund to be an additional depository. And Sally's here to talk to us about that.
Mayor Noel and council members, I'm here to ask you to approve the resolution establishing the 4M Fund as an additional depository on pages 55 through 56. With the issuance of the bond you just approved, we're going to deposit that, we would like to deposit that money into the 4M Fund. This fund helps us with arbitrage and some other cash flow issues and audit requests that come through with loans of this size and different projects that it's being used for. So the 4M is through the League of Minnesota Cities. The city has used them in the past. I have not used those, but we have used them in the past, and they do help us with, as I said, arbitrage and some reporting that we need to meet requirements with this size of a bond issuance. So we're asking that you approve the resolution of a 4M fund for additional depository for the city of St. Peter.
Questions for Sally? Brad?
Sally, so for the people who are watching, can you explain what you mean by it assists with arbitrage?
That's when we are paying less interest than what we're earning on the loan, and as it goes out and comes back in. So there's some timing on that. So as Shannon said, we're getting 3.4%. Right now, Forum is paying close to 5% on liquid assets. So there'll be some of that going on right now.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Let's see, hearing nothing further, the resolution reauthorizing membership in the 4M Fund appears on pages 55 through 56 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpsman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
And next item of new business is the adoption of a resolution approving the 2024 preliminary levy payable 2025.
Mayor Noel and council members, we've gone through this. You have a packet with a lot of detail in there. We've gone through this at a couple workshops and discussed where we're at for the preliminary levy. But under state law, the council must take action by the end of September to set the preliminary levy. And the final levy we'll approve in December. It can be equal to the preliminary levy dollar amount, but not any higher. So what we're looking, as we're setting the cap for our levy for 2024 payable in 2025, right now we're proposing a budget and suggesting the levy that will result in an increased tax rate from 46.99 to 48.66, or a gross levy increase of $269,150, or 6.65%, for a total of $4,317,473. In the calculation, we assumed a 3% tax capacity increase for homes based on market value. Again, as we get closer to December, the county will come out with the actual increase on estimated market value, and that will adjust the levy rate, not the dollars. So we'll still be working with the same dollars. That might change the rate up or down depending upon where that comes in. And what that means to a homeowner whose property value hasn't changed from 2024, their city share of a tax bill of a $250,000 home would decrease approximately $6. And that is due to a rate, or the state legislature approved change in the formula. So your homestead amount that's backed off went from 90,600 to up to 95,000. So there was an adjustment in that rate. So your taxes would go down. If your if your home value did increase the 3%, your taxes for 2025 would go to up $33.77 for the year. We continue to look at general fund and special fund budgets as a portion of our business. In 2025, wages and insurance accounted for almost 100%, or it did account for 100% of the increase. The increase for wages and benefits was $282,700. The general fund increase was $256 over the 2024 budget. So basically, wages went up 3% and medical insurance is up 6% year over year. All the other budgets stayed relatively flat. We have added one position in 2024 for a human resource, and that is split between general fund 25% and then enterprise funds the other 75%. And then we're also looking at 2025 adding a sustainability and communications person, also split between general fund, water, wastewater, and electric. The recreation department is adding some part-time employees for guest services to get better coverage, and this is going to be covered with a portion of the cost will be offset by rate fees. Elections are down 17,000, and that's just due to the year that we're in. 2024 is an election year with presidentials and primaries. Next year it's just school board and city councils. We have one election versus 6 this year that we're funding. Maintenance for the building at City Hall increased about 26.4. Maintenance continues to be done at the building, but this does not include any potential costs for City Hall moves or upgrades to take place. That would be done approved in probably 2025 and then funded in 2026 or next budget cycle. Park equipment is flat year over year. You hear about Gorman Park at $2.2 million, of which $1.2 million will come from ARPA funds. The rest we're still working with the legislature to get in the bonding bill to cover it. And if not, we will look at other and phasing that work over the next there's 3 phases. So we'll keep working on that to get that fully funded. Police department, there's some funding from public safety funds, and that's where they will be we'll use those funds to purchase 1 new squad car for $60,000, and then they're also purchasing 13 body cameras and 5 squad car cameras for $140,000. So $200,000 of the money of the little bit less than $600 that we receive for public safety funds will be used for that. Fire department increased about $30,000. Again, most of that was due to benefits. And then we'll also continue to fund contribute to $7,500 in the 9th year of replacement for some turnout gear, and $15,000 is in its the 5th year of 15 years for SCBA equipment. As that equipment expires in 15 years, we're trying to build a fund so it isn't a one-time hit to us when we do need to purchase that, and we want to keep our firefighters safe with everything else. And then we also plan to use $25,000 for radio and pager replacements from the Public Safety Fund. Parks, Community Spirit Park, we use no reserves to cover that expense. That's in the park fund. And we are funding, the school is funding one school resource officer for the school year or for the calendar year, and the district covers 70% of the wages and benefits for that officer. Local government aid, unfortunately, is staying flat with no increase, which is, talk to your legislators to try and increase, because we're very dependent on local government aid. We've also made some changes to training and educational dollars. As staff turns over, we need more education, and then there's also just being part of a progressive organization and training our employees. Community outreach events continue to be funded by the city council and city administrator. Equipment certificates planned for next year. We're planning on buying a 1/2-ton replacement truck with reversible plow for streets, a brine sprayer for streets, a skid trailer for streets, transfer switch for the community center, and a building control software. Those two are $310,000 combined, and that's going to be over 10 years. The rest of these are over 5 years. And then we're doing a tractor for parks and a mower for parks for $90,000. So total amount of the equipment certificate will be $682,000. We also have a stump grinder for parks for $20,000.
Sally, could I jump in for a moment there? I know the council had specific discussion related to the transfer switch and the building control software. Because it is included in this budget, and at least for all intents purposes as a part of this planning process, it's a net zero. The council will potentially take action on the future in that, and we are doing some more work with your electrical engineer, Dolish, who's doing that work. So we'll have a more evolved report for you when we get to the jump. But for now, it does have impact, but it's a relatively minimal impact. And we prefer to keep that the way it is based on Dolish's current recommendation. Again, we're asking them to do a little bit more work, and that will come back to, as with any projects of that size, those come to the council for approval before. So this doesn't give approval, it just provides an opportunity for funding mechanism going forward. I hope that it provides an explanation about where we're at with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Sal.
Yep, no problem. Our financial position is today, as we reported a couple weeks ago with the auditor, is in good shape. The general fund ended 2023 with revenues higher than expenditures by $197,673, and reserves increased to $4,555,971. Projected change to the fund balance in 2024 is anticipated to be a decrease of $4,870. There was a larger decrease of $363,348 planned as part of our budget for 2024. So we believe we're managing the budget and doing the best we can with taxpayers' monies. 2025 budget is not balanced. Expenditures are greater than revenues by $6,043, and we'll use reserves to cover that $6,043. And we're well within the reserve balance of 35 to 50%. Projected fund balance at the end of 2025 per budget will be $4,522,558. Our current projections reserve target at the end of 2024 will be at 48%, which is higher than budget. And then at the end of 2025, we'll be at 46.4%. As I said, that's well within our bandwidth of 35 to 50%. And we'll continue to manage to the best of our ability. Again, we don't just spend. Please note that that does not include the $157,500 that we are putting away for fire equipment for this SCBA and turnout equipment. Again, it's important to note that $282,863 of the increase compared to budget is for insurance and wages. Again, the library fund, the special funds, library is allocated to increase the levy, 25,000 over 2024. Again, library expenses will still be above revenues by 57,301. And we're continuing the same level of programming. So we've got to work and slowly come into, slowly keep increasing that levy so we can get the library to at least a break even year over year. But we're working at it slowly. We can also work at watching for grants or other things, or work with the county to try and get additional funds for the library. Community center is funded with 170,000 in tax levy, same as 2024. And again, the equipment certificate includes 312 to replace the transfer switch and control software. Rental income and transfers from other funds help the community center, and we are at 100% full with our renters. So we aren't losing anybody as of right now. There was talk with the school, but that is not going to happen, so we should be good. Community center expenditures will be 113,614 above revenues, but that does include 100,000 or 99,000 of capital expenditures for bathroom renovations and $25,000 for roof. Again, this building is aging. We had the 20th anniversary last year or the year before. So as the building ages, we need to replace. We are looking at replacing carpeting, but right now we're in good shape. It'll probably be in the 25 or 26 budget. We'll keep evaluating that as that goes in different rooms. We are here asking you to approve the resolution of the preliminary levy for 2024 collectible and 2025 on pages 155 through 156 in the amount of $473 to be in compliance with setting the preliminary levy by the end of September. The final levy again will come back in December, but it will not be any higher than the $4,317,473. Questions?
Sally, questions for Sally or Todd, or any discussion?
I will mention, Madam Mayor, I think certainly staff and council put a lot of time and effort into this. We talk about a lot of different alternatives related to this, and this is not just about the numbers. This is really more about the work plan and the expectations for the amount of work, the quality of work, the materials that are needed to do that work in the next year for your general fund. As you know, enterprise funds will be coming to you in the not too distant future. General fund is done on a 1-year cycle, where your enterprise funds are done on a 2-year cycle. So those will be coming to you before the end of the year as well. It's also important to note that your enterprise funds do contribute dollars towards your general fund. That's really based on, has been discussed many times by this council and previous council, that's really done based on the idea and fact set, which is that more than 30% of the property in St. Peter does not pay property taxes. And so comparatively speaking, you need to have additional revenue generation, and your tax worth from an estimated market value standpoint on taxable property is less than most communities of similar size. And again, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I think those are some really important points as we continue to talk with the community. All of this information that Sally talked about is within your council packet. And so anyone in the community can read this, see all of this, see the tables and charts, see the line item, how much does the city administrator's office spend on stamps. All of those things are available within the packet. So we really want to encourage people, and I know you work really hard to be good stewards of those resources.
Well, and just really quickly for people at home, what's an enterprise fund, Todd?
An enterprise fund is a fund that is essentially owned by a local unit of government, and it's designed to be at a break even. The fees that are charged, the bill that you might receive for electricity pays the costs related to not only the electricity, but maintaining the system. Where general funds require taxes, typically the phraseology we would use is ad valorem taxes. So taxes that all of us pay help fund these types of resources. There's no fee to use the park, essentially. There's no fee to drive on the street, yeah, thank you. And so those are paid for by taxes. The maintenance, the people, all those things are paid for by taxes, not by a fee associated with its utilization.
So In summary, an enterprise fund is typically a utility fund.
It's typically a utility fund. We have others as well, but typically that's correct.
That's for
Yep.
most people.
Yep.
Yep, most people
Yep.
would recognize it on their bill at their home, a utility bill. Yep, that's the fee.
Utility bill.
Thanks. I think it's helpful for people to know that's
Yep,
something
it
that I
does.
didn't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
understand.
We're just so used to talking about it. Yeah.
We do. You get in the lingo and all that stuff, but for people at home, it's helpful to know some of that.
Sunday, I wanted to thank you. The last month, we really challenged you to go back and re-examine where the funds were going and what the increase was going to be to make sure that we were having the least impact on increasing that tax rate. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing nothing further, the resolution adopting preliminary 2024 tax levy collectible in 2025 appears on pages 155 through 156 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sharpston?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rand?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thanks,
Thank you.
Sally.
Thank you, Sally.
Next item of new business, adoption of a resolution approving the purchase of body and squad car cameras.
So my members, as the chief comes up, I know you spoke about this at quite a length at your last workshop. It has been something that you've talked about before, so more than just at that one workshop. It's been something that's been under consideration for a couple of years. This year we do have state public safety dollars that are helping in the purchase, but I'll let the chief explain that and then utilization of this equipment. Now we're going to move forward. So chief, if you wouldn't mind.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Members of the council, thank you too. As Todd pointed out, the memorandum is found on page 157 and 158 with the resolution found on page 159. Again, just getting back to our workshop last week, it was more of a educational time for many of us to really understand the body camera system a bit, along with our squad car system. I think the mention of the age of our current watch guard system for our cameras, and certainly the challenges we've had from our current body mic camera system. It is time to look at, and the research that I and many members of the staff have done through meeting with a number of different vendors, and then ultimately selecting Axon, as you can see in your packet. It's been challenging, and I think the one thing that we also should include is some of the money that yearly, as I mentioned last week, that we're going to be saving as a department in the course of a 5-year program or warranty that we have with Axon is roughly $25,000 to $30,000 of 2 systems that are currently in operation that we can essentially dismiss and all collectively use with the Axon system. I don't know if there's any further questions that the council has. I know we had good discussions again last week, but I'm looking just for the approval of the Axon body cameras and the squad car camera system that is going to be covered again by the public safety fund that were provided to us by the state of Minnesota for that figure of $140,347.52.
So, if I may, Chief,
Please.
so there's a number of policies that have to be developed for this related to its use, and that's not just according to state statute, but that's really a best practices issue. And so you're feeling good about where the department is relative to those policies currently?
Yeah, and we've had that time, which I've been thankful for, and reviewing a number of policies from a number of different departments that really get direct and specific when we come to the data requests that we feel is going to be a part of the operating costs with this system. However, not significant. It changes from department to department, but really understanding the costs that are associated with that, and really finding those type of policies that really cover everything imaginable to that system. And so I've had an opportunity to almost have prepared our policy and procedure manual with this particular policy. So I'm comfortable where we're at. I'm comfortable in looking at what the state statute requires to have that public time for comment. And we look forward to having Axon, along with me and other members of the department, provide a date and time if it's not at a council meeting, but certainly here, probably at the community center for that public comment. So we'll enter that phase sometime in October or November to get the public comment. And we're really looking at implementing that in probably January, February of 2025.
So, Chief, I think what you just said is that there'll be a public meeting where people could come and talk about the policy, maybe understand a little bit better about how the systems work.
Sure.
And then, if the council approves it tonight, implementation of not just the policy, but the equipment itself is likely to occur
In January, February of 2025.
And so that would include training for all the officers and others,
Yes.
and installation in squad cars.
It's about a 2 to 3 day installation and training program. So what's nice about Axon and another part of choosing that vendor, they come out to our department. So we don't have to take our squad cars off of line. And so they come right to our department, they train us, and they set up the system for us right in our police garage. So that is very nice. So they'll come in from California and be here for usually 2 to 3 days, and we will be up and running on that system when they leave our department.
Chief, if I can, Madam Mayor, one more question. One of the nice things about this system, and if maybe you can explain this a little bit more, is the opportunity for the storage and how we can then ship that information or allow access to that information to the city attorney, county attorney, and others.
That really has been part of our research, is not only reaching out locally to the city and the county attorney for those cases, but having that accessible in the cloud and really being able to save time and putting together an entire investigation by really, as we understand it, clicking a couple of buttons to get that case in full presented to our county attorney. So what that means is we're no longer having to take our Olympus digital system where we record our interviews on, because they will be now available through our Axon system and on our cell phones. And so we eliminate that process. We eliminate having to make extra CDs that we're still doing to provide for pictures to the county attorney. So all of this comes through. It's a field within the Axon system. It's called evidence.com. And so all of the interviews, all of the pictures, all of the videos, if we have crimes that occur and there's surveillance video from, just as an example, I'll just say a local business, we can get that downloaded through our system and in the cloud. We have unlimited storage, and we send it again in that really nice looking package to them, so they're not asking us and other staff, hey, we didn't get this, because we have to click those boxes. That's it when it's included. And so the county attorney has been very helpful, as other departments within Nicola County, including the State Patrol, is on Axon. They immediately said, oh, Axon is the most easiest system and foolproof to learn. They've had a lot of issues with some of the other vendors. Maybe it's not as significant as it was in the beginning, but they really preferred Axon. So we took that into consideration as we went through this bidding process and learning as much as we could about these systems.
And Chief, the warranty on this equipment and stuff is about, what, 5 years?
It's a 5-year warranty, and I know that there was a council member that had asked about when the Gen 5 camera would come out, and are we able to upgrade that? And we are, through sort of the package and the quote that we got from Axon. So when that new camera and the new system comes out, we will get those new cameras at no additional cost. So the quote and the estimate is what we have for 5 years that will cover us.
Ben?
What's the estimate after the 5 years? What's our estimated monthly, annual upkeep?
As the rep with Chandler talked about last week, roughly it's about a 4 to 8% increase. And so Todd and I have had many discussions related to what do we do after 5 years. I really think the market is going to be competitive. I think perhaps these other vendors might catch up to Axon, in my opinion. And I think on an annual cost, I think within that 5-year period, again, I don't think we'll have the serious expense because we're really hopeful that our squad car cameras are going to last beyond that 5-year. So we will not incur that cost. And so my guess is in 5 years, we'll go into another 5-year contract. And my hope it is that that could be maybe around $100,000 that we're looking at, depending on where we're at with the new cameras, and to include all of the systems that we need to have to operate Axon. So many departments I know, they just reestablish a new contract for the research that I've done. So when their contract was up, as an example, in 5 years, they're getting a much lesser amount, but they're continuing the services through Axon. So I don't have that specifically.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the cameras that we're getting, those were released approximately 2.5 years ago.
They were released, I think it was 20 months ago. So
Okay,
right in
so
there,
about 2
18
years.
months, yes.
And the new ones will come out in about 2.5 years, and we'll upgrade to those when those come out.
Correct.
So in theory, 2.5 years after those come out, we'll be done with this 5-year contract.
I would
So-
believe so, yes.
By that cycle, if they run in a similar cycle, they'll, by the time we're done with our cycle,
Right,
2.5 years after
right.
we would get into a new agreement, they would be coming out with a new camera.
I would
So
believe that they
hopefully-
would. Well, hopefully they would,
okay.
and, they really back their product. If it's one of those things, if part of the system goes down, they're available at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if they can't fix it remotely, they come out to repair it. They do come to us, which is very nice. And so if a body camera goes down, as we know, we're getting 13 body cameras, we can take that extra one that is on the charger and just look to get that one replaced, and they do that within 24 hours to get another camera back to us if we're having problems with that particular body camera. So it was exciting to learn as much as we did to really understand how it really can incorporate our services as a department, and really to save those expenses and that time officers, along with our communications staff and officer manager, are involved in getting cases to our attorneys, and it's significant.
Carrie? Would you say the goal of the upcoming community meeting is less about input and more about transparency and building awareness of the new implementation of the body worn cameras, and then also the policies and procedures associated with that? Because it seems like, the opportunity for input from the community was tonight, if folks wanted to show up.
Sure.
But the goal of this next step, this meeting or this community opportunity to learn would be more about
Right.
increasing transparency and awareness.
And Todd and I had a chance to discuss that, because statutorily we may have fulfilled that obligation. But again, we want to take it one step farther. We want to have the public have an opportunity to come in and see it. Certainly we can post it on our social media and Facebook that we are intending to go to this, and we can provide a comment section for them, and we can, I believe it was 10 days, other departments have held it over. Please provide your comments, but I really want to see if there's an interest, and we will be made available. We will have a PowerPoint together. Chandler has commented that he would send out even a body-worn camera. This is sort of what it looks like. This is where it's going to be placed on the officer. We'll have an officer there in uniform and have it placed. And if there's specific questions, Chandler, if we're not able to answer those, would be available during that period of time. But we'd like to always include the public on this big of a decision. This is something that we have never gone to, obviously, within this department. But what's so encouraging, and I've shared this with members of the council, is that the officers have been waiting for this. There is no hesitation to have this camera because they see this as such a safety issue as well, and a liability savior for the city too. So we're excited to have it implemented.
And just to follow up just on that point, so we've heard that the officers are very supportive and have been waiting for this to be implemented. It's really great that we have the opportunity of the public safety dollars to use those funds for this purpose. But what have you heard up to this point from the community? Has the community said, oh, we've been waiting, or has that engagement with body-worn cameras and some of that kind of dissipated since 2020?
Yeah, we've only had a little bit of feedback in some of the comments that I could share just off the top of my head. It's like, you don't have these yet? Or maybe it's about time. And so those are the specifics that have been shared. In talking with surrounding chiefs of police that have had that public comments section, there hasn't been a lot. So hopefully St. Peter might have a bit more interest in that available time for them to come in and ask those questions. But historically, from many chiefs that have had that sort of that get to know, that educational or that question time, no one has showed up, but we'll be available. We hope that they do and get their opinion. And as we always strive for, we always want to be better. We always want to be better in our service and how we implement our services. So I think this is just a great positive step for us as a department to be really up to date. So I'm excited for it. I really am.
I was just going to make a point of emphasis on this. We've talked about it being the public safety dollars, but this is specifically a grant. So this move that we're making, we're using state grant funding. It's not costing our taxpayers anything.
That is correct.
Which is amazing.
It is amazing to have those grants that were provided to us. It really came at a time, and Todd and I immediately started talking about body-worn cameras and squad car systems because we knew we were at the length for our WatchGuard system. It was beginning to fail. We were having problems, as I mentioned, even with our body mics and even getting reports, as I've talked about last week. So this is coming at just the best time possible to the taxpayers, having these grant funds available for this and not incurring that increase in our budget.
Your timing just happened to be after Sally went through every one of our budgets.
Right. We will take the luck, and in this case, it was very lucky to get those public safety dollars and us being able to use them.
Madam Mayor, the last item that I'd like to mention before we ask you to consider the resolution on page 159 is that, as you know, this is not just body-worn cameras. This is also for your squad car cameras, and the chiefs mentioned that as being a WatchGuard system. It is important, really, for efficiency, and because of the age of our WatchGuard system, that these two things move at the same time. So this is not just body cameras. It is also cameras for your squad cars. And again, Madam Mayor, members, the resolution for this is on page 159.
The only question I have, once that public meeting is scheduled, people can find that information about that, the usual places, Hot Sheet, Facebook, things
Yes.
like that. So just stay alert for that. More to
Right.
come.
Thank you.
Seeing no further raised hands, the resolution purchasing body and squad car cameras and software from Axon Enterprises using public safety grant funds is on page 159 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Kloss.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Schuster.
Aye.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, adoption of a resolution accepting the MPCA Stormwater Resiliency Plan. Oh, and we've got Pete and Curtis here to talk to us about that tonight.
Madam Mayor and City Council, Curtis Thompson, our Water Resources Superintendent, is going to do a little review of what we've been through the last year and a half here on the stormwater resiliency planning. Tell you a little bit about where we're going with this in the future as well, and then we'll open it up to questions. Curtis.
Good evening, Mayor Noel, council members. So as most of you are aware, in April of 2023, we did receive a MPCA planning grant for stormwater resiliency. Through that, our goal was to study and quantify stormwater runoff into our drinking water supply management area, or our DWSMA, that's located just west of town here. Our biggest goal for us as a city was the nitrates that are being leached into our Jordan Aquifer. Through this process, we retained ISG Engineering. We held a public kickoff meeting in July of 2023, as well as 2 stakeholder meetings in February and March of this year. With those stakeholder meetings, there was members from the city, the Minnesota Department of Health, the Department of Ag, the Nicolet County Soil and Water Conservation District, and Minnesota Rural Water Association. Through those those stakeholder meetings, we developed a multipurpose drainage management plan and used that to identify best management practices. Those BMPs were identified and ranked in order of several different factors, along with cost effectiveness, maintenance. There's 7 different categories. The highest scoring ones were storage ponds, saturated buffers, 2-stage ditches, and then after those came dams, wetlands, bioreactors, and WASCOBs. The problem we run into with any of these projects is they all do hinge on landowner participation. All of these projects would happen on privately owned land, so without their participation, they kind of die right there. The goal with this would be to create shovel-ready projects, and our plan kind of creates a roadmap for us to have those shovel-ready projects to hit the ground when there is grant opportunities available. Through this, the cost was $63,100, of which $57,000 of it was reimbursed through the grant, and $6,100 was through in-kind labor from our stormwater fund.
As Curtis mentioned here, and what our goal is tonight is to have you accept the plan as complete, authorizing staff to submit for grant funds. We should be able to do that in a fairly quick turnaround. We'll also be looking at other grant opportunities that are related to the information that was collected here. So this is the first step that leads to many other solutions, we hope. We also plan to share this information with 4 of our main partners, the Department of Ag, the Soil and Water Conservation District, the Board of Water and Soil Resources in Nicolet County. We'll need those partners as we proceed. As you know, the Department of Ag is currently monitoring wells and nitrates for us in the Western Study area. And so we are measuring the flow that's coming through underneath Magner Parkway as part of the culvert installation and stormwater activity we did out there. We did have flow monitoring equipment installed in there, so now we have a real good quantitative measurement of the flow that's going on there. This could lead to storage, additional storage west and on the bluff, so to speak, of the storage area or of the control area. And hopefully what we can do is reduce a little bit of the flooding that we're seeing on a pretty consistent measure down on the sand plains. And so with the decision matrix that Curtis had talked about here, we've got a variety of plug and play different tools of information that we can go after. What we're asking for tonight is that you approve the resolution on page 162.
Alrighty, questions for Pete or for Curtis? Carrie?
This year, it seems like we've been talking a lot about stormwater and water runoff, and there's been all this public engagement, and there's the One Watershed Plan. How does all of this tie into that? This larger regional effort?
Yep, so basically with this plan, that kind of helps us once we get the One Watershed. This will kind of work hand in hand with the One Watershed Plan to identify those projects for the funding purposes.
And so the plan is also a means for us to get grant funding so that we can put work toward the plan, basically, essentially.
Correct.
I would add that it's also part of our overall sustainability and climate resiliency planning. And so this might be a smaller portion of it, but as you know, we're building in other areas, and all of these are important overall in that sustainability work that the council's wanted to see move forward.
Yeah, we don't really exist on our own here in St. Peter. We're impacted by all the land around us and the place we are, and so it's really important, and I thank staff for all the work that they do to collaborate with our regional partners and other stakeholders, and not just this work, but a lot of other things.
Madam Mayor, the resolution is included in your packet on page 162.
Are there any further questions? Hearing nothing, is there a motion to approve the resolution accepting the St. Peter Stormwater Resiliency Plan and authorize staff to seek grant fund reimbursement?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Rosenthal,
Aye.
Councilmember Scharsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Watts.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thank you,
Thanks,
Curtis.
guys.
We are going to move on to the adoption of a resolution approving a private property and hazardous tree program, and Pete's here to talk to us about that.
Sure. As you are aware, Madam Mayor and City Council, we have had an EAB plan since about 2018. We've been watching EAB since about 2015, keeping our eyes on how this activity works. And to tell you the truth, I think we're doing fairly well in the right-of-way and in our city parks. I mean, we've been fortunate to get grants, again, working with our partners at the DNR, receiving help to help us mark trees, to coordinate GIS information on our system, and just manage our overall urban forest. The one area that we don't have a lot of attention to yet is private property. And as you know, a lot of homeowners don't have the resources that are necessary from time to time to manage trees. So what we have done is we've gone out and worked with a couple of property owners who we can see are visibly impacted by not only EAB but other hazardous trees that may die on private property or become a hazard to people that are either in the public or to your neighbor. Is what we consider a hazardous tree, and we're trying to develop a program where we can fund a certain amount, and through a waiver of assessment, the city would carry some funding to remove or have somebody come in and under a contract and remove trees on private property. Now, this would only be done by waiver, so it's us working with the homeowners or the homeowners coming to us and asking that we can be of assistance. We would then coordinate with private contractors who would then remove the trees and or remove the stumps and or replace dirt and grass in customer's yard, depending on what the customer really wants to have done on their property. The city staff itself would only be administering the program. They really aren't intended to go on private property. Our forestry and hazardous tree ordinance tells us that we can. We'd prefer to have a contractor come in and do that. They're more familiar working in those surroundings where we're pretty much working on the street most of the time or in a park. So what we've proposed is put some information on our regular assessments on page 163, so you can kind of see what the proposed assessments are on page 164. And this could be a variety of different activities, again, as we talk, depending on the number of trees that a customer may want to take down. One of our test plots was about 6 trees on private property, so we're working with the homeowner to identify that scope. We went out and got some bids in, and it was a little over $3,000. So they will get up there if there's multiple bigger lots, but most of the time when we're dealing with situations like this, it's going to be a 1 or a 2 tree removal process. With that, what I'm asking for is the approval of the assessment policy to move forward with this project. And there is a resolution on page 165 that explains the budget amount of $30,000 and the process moving forward for assessments in years.
All right. Questions for Pete? Brad?
So Pete, how are homeowners, obviously you're working with one, but how is the average homeowner going to know this is available? How are you going to communicate out this program?
Social media again. We'll also have our forester during the winter months goes out and does some of the assessments. Most of the dead trees you can still see in the wintertime as far as how that goes. But also during the year like now, we've targeted certain addresses and our community corp person has looked at trees on property and said, if you look on ours, there's one dead tree at this address, and then we'll go out and work with them. Again, it's kind of fund restricted and or assessment restricted, so people gotta want to use us. And so what we'll do is take whoever's willing and wants to participate in that area.
Thank you.
One request I would make is, if the $30,000 runs out quicker than you thought it would, I would ask that you would come back and talk to the council versus just shutting the program down and waiting for funding in the next fiscal year. Having been around in a couple of other communities, some of these communities are really affected, and I really don't know how quick it's gonna take in this community or take over with all the dead trees, which we run out of funds fairly quickly, and I want you to come back then and request additional dollars instead of waiting. Surely comment.
I'll second that. Well, I just want to say how excited I was when this was brought forward to the council for discussion. As a property owner myself, we had 6 mature ash trees that were ours. They were on our private property, not the city's. And so we were responsible for removing all of those trees ourselves, and it was a very big expense, and I can imagine there are property owners throughout the city who would be able to use this and would be very helpful, because it can be a big blow to the family budget when you suddenly have to remove remove some trees. Carrie?
Just on that note, having also removed 2 ash trees, there's just things that if you haven't removed trees before that you don't think about. You might, if you go through the licensed tree service, there's the cleanup, there's the filling the hole, there's the grass. It's not just the expense, it's all of the work that entails, and that's sometimes, and I think there's just a benefit, I would think, to go through the city who chooses contractors that you know are gonna do a good job.
Right, and we would take like the homeowner in my neighborhood that we're working with on a test project, is they have certain resources they wanted to do, and so they can pick and choose what fits for them, and that's how we work with the contractors. And it really depends on how the contractor schedule looks, because we've got very competitive bids on a lot of these situations where contractors don't have to make special trips. They can come in and do 10, 15 trees at one time, and that cuts the cost for everybody along the line. So we're hoping it's beneficial.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, if I can, this runs very parallel to other programs that you have related to assisting folks who might have sewer private service that's broken down, or a water service that's broken, and we've traditionally assisted those. This is moving this tree effort in your urban forest really into the realm of very much like a utility, and allowing it to be assessed and helping move the whole community forward. And so Pete's done a very nice job with this, and I know we'll have interest, and unfortunately there are still lots of ash trees out there.
Once you know what a diseased ash tree looks like, you see them around, and I see them in a lot of other cities that have not been as proactive and have not managed EAB as well as St. Peter. So residents watching at home should feel really good about the work that staff has done to manage EAB in St. Peter, how your staff pursued grant funds to make it possible. You should feel really good about the work that has done.
Yeah, our
So,
staff has done a really, really nice job.
absolutely. If there is no further discussion, the resolution, let's see, the resolution on page 165 approving a policy to assist with private property tree removals and waiver of assessment payment schedule is on page 165 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve? We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Ring?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Scharsky?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye. Resolution is
Thank you.
approved. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks.
Next up, adoption of a resolution approving an amendment to resolution number 2016-82 Traverse Green lot sale.
Mayor members, this is a policy and a resolution that was passed obviously in 2016. It's become an obstacle to transfer of property in the Traverse Green neighborhood. And so your council has looked at the resolution, is proposing a modification that would assist in the sale and transfer of these properties and essentially move the payment of the building permit to the permit point, not the purchase point. So your Assistant City Attorney, Steve Winkler, is here to talk about it and certainly answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Pravke. As is outlined in the memorandum, it explains sort of the history, beginning with the Pine Ridge subdivision and the resulting issue with speculation of those properties when they were purchased in the 1990s. Again, the use of the requirement of the purchase of a building permit at the time of purchase was one option or one strategy in combating this speculation. And again, since the development of Traverse Green and the requirement that full purchase price in order to get a deed and construction has been an effective tool in resolving this issue. So it's no longer appears necessary to include the building permit. So that's was the conclusion reached as outlined in the memorandum, and I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to resolve them for you.
So with Pine Ridge, they were able to buy the lot but not pay the special assessment at the time. Is that the way the Pine Ridge was functioning?
Yeah, if I can, it was slightly different than that, but in essence, that's how it affected purchasers. And we had one or two or three purchasers that would then buy 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lots at a time. And so that taught a lesson related to how do we incent folks to turn those lots over appropriately. We have other mechanisms in place, as Steve has articulated, so we don't need to have that in place for the purchase of the building permit. I'd also like to mention that purchasing the building permit in advance sometimes causes problems because people change their plans. They buy the lot and then they change the plan, and therefore the cost of the home changes, therefore the permit changes, and so oftentimes it has to be redone or other dollars exchange hands both ways. And we also have rules related to how this works. And so at the time it seemed like the appropriate solution, and it did work, but we don't need it any longer, and it just is now cumbersome in transferring the lots that we see in Traverse Green.
And you don't see us having exposure with like the Cullen Street expansion?
I don't see us doing that because how it is set up is dramatically different, and we would not sell 20 lots at a time to a speculator.
Great.
We just wouldn't do that.
Additional questions? Hearing nothing further, the amended resolution establishing sales price for development lots within the first phase of Traverse Green subdivision dated May 9th, 2016 appears on pages 168 through 169 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Rand,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpston,
Aye.
Councilmember Voss,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, adoption of a resolution approving city assistance for the Mill Pond Hayride.
Mayor, members, the information is included in your packet, starting on 170. This is through the Nicollet County Trails Association. You've worked with them in the past. They've utilized your park and then nature area in the past for a number of years for the Haunted Hayride. This is different than last year, not in practice or how they want to operate, but actually serves an additional weekend as compared to last year. So that tells me that their volunteer base must be growing, so we're happy about that. I'd also mention that any dollars that they derive not only go to the Nicollet County Trails Association, but they also work with many other groups and associations within the community to work some of the stands or sell food, and therefore they make some money besides having a great time. The other fun one that councils have tended to gravitate towards is that this is one of the few haunted hay rides that we've seen, and certainly one of the first in the area that was handicap accessible. So if you had a wheelchair, you could get on the hay rack too and go and have fun. Get scared with everyone else, I guess. And so that's a great thing. It's worked, I think, very well. They have evolved in the impact that they've had in that nature area. Staff has worked with them very closely to minimize any impact in the area. That is generally south and east of where City Hall is located. There's a residential area back there behind where the Napa store is and further down into part of the residential area where the trail occurs. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but keep in mind they're required to have insurance like all other groups of this type, and their request is included in the packet. And again, they've been good partners in this in the past. The resolution starts on page 174.
Alrighty, questions for Todd? I don't have a question. I just want to thank staff for working diligently with the organizers who we have at times had feedback for them, and they've always responded, and so I greatly appreciate that. And it is a fun event. So if there are no questions or discussion, the resolution approving a request for city assistance for Nicollet County Trails Association haunted hay rides appears on page 174 through 175 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ram?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpström?
Aye.
Councilmember Voss?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We will move on to reports, and I'm going to make my report really brief tonight because I've talked so much, but we've just recently had a few events in our community which have really brought to light to me the importance and the good work of our first responders, our police department, our EMTs, our fire department. If you don't have to think about the work that they do, you should count yourself lucky because you haven't had a tragedy or a really traumatic event happen in your life. And so I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on that and to, as long as our chief is here, to say thank you very much. So now I will give time for any council members who have reports. Brad.
Madam Mayor, I would like to add to that. I was witness to the tragedy of last weekend. I will say our St. Peter Police Department was on the scene within minutes. There were 2 police officers there before the ambulance arrived. They tended to the victim, they secured the scene. Then they tried to, then they worked on figuring out, investigating what happened. If you're wondering what our chief of police does on a Saturday afternoon, he's still serving years because he was on scene as well. Yes, we are lucky.
Any other reports from council members? We will give time to our city administrator.
Mayor, members, I have 2 things that are listed and then 2 quick additional things. But the first I'd like to turn over to, if anyone from the council would like to participate, but certainly to Pete. We had the ribbon cutting for the solar array that is located on the south side of the wastewater treatment pond, which is really something that we've been working on for a long time. And just a beautiful day, and I think a really nice event. Pete or members, if you have anything you'd like to share
Yeah, we have 3
as a part of
council
that.
members here, Todd.
It
that
took a
were
lot
there,
of
so-
teamwork to make that go, and we had somebody cutting and 2 people pulling the ribbon because, it's a fake scissor and all those things. It was wonderful. It was really nice. It was not a cutting scissors. I mean, it was a real scissors. It just wasn't able to cut. I don't know if anybody has a comment. We had a really nice turnout.
Nice turnout.
People interested in it. Got some good press.
Great turnout, great work from city staff. Jason Lee, our electric superintendent, managed that project from start to finish, working with Clint Schumacher from SIMPA. We had total buy-in from SIMPA on this project from the beginning, which really made things go easy. We had a great partner in Solar Connections who was also working with us on the other 50 kW solar process that we're working on up by the Broadway Water Plant, and they're working with Gustavus on the 1 megawatt system going forward there. Talk about patience. We've probably been working on this project for almost 5 years to see it become reality and just to be done. Sometimes you just want to be done with stuff after they're out there for that long. Because every Tuesday, Brad would come to superintendent and ask me where this was, so. But today it was working at full capacity. It was 100%, which was great, and off it went, and right now it's resting. And we're very happy with the product that we have there going forward.
So there's a lot of solar energy going to do one of the most important things that we have for the environment in St. Peter, which is treating our wastewater in really one of the best wastewater treatment plants within the state of Minnesota. And you've been there, you've seen it, and so it's kind of a cool connection. So.
And I think there's a story about it in the Free Press if people want more information.
Right.
I believe there was.
Free Press.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, the Herald.
Oh, sorry, the Herald. Did I
Yep.
say Free Press? Yeah,
Yep.
I meant Herald.
Yep.
Probably you with the big scissors, Brad. Yes.
I would like to make jokes. I have been riding Pete kind of hard the last 4 years on this topic. And I commend them for the work they put in. St. Peter is recognized by some solar installers as being rather progressive. I found out an interesting thing that we have over 30 solar arrays in town now, which I think when I put mine on, we were around 12. Our Jason Lee, our superintendent, is seen as being easy to work with, which I think is a testament to trying to embody our values of improving environmental sustainability. The other thing I will note is that Pete told a joke at the beginning. It was received so well that people recommended that he and I take our comedy act on the road, a long, long ways down the road. I took that as a compliment.
That's the last joke you'll hear from me.
But anyway, thank you, Pete, and thank you to your team.
And we know that not everyone can participate in these all the time, but we thank you when you can, and those are great events. We don't, frankly, we probably don't celebrate some of these things as much as we should. So anyway, thanks for that. Next one that I have, Pete, don't leave, Cullen Street. So this is the area of the residential subdivision that you've been talking about. And this is a project, too, that's been in the making over 5 years. And so, Pete, what's the update on when grading's going to start on Cullen Street?
We hope it's going to start this week. Part of the provisions of our contract were that we're trying to wait for the beans to come out that are currently in the field where we need to make drainage improvements. Sorry. Yeah. So, our plan would be to start dirt work this year. They hope that they're going to be able to get utilities installed this year and get it to a gravel surface, which means next year what would be left would be curb and gutter, asphalt, and sidewalk. And we'd be ready to roll hopefully by July and have some homes going up here next summer.
Mayor, members, so the next steps for you will be information coming back, setting the prices of lots and the rules and authority to sell lots before they really are even buildable. And we're feeling really good about it at this point. So watch for that information to come yet here in the next month or so. And we'll be set to go on a project. I'm not going to say it, but certainly has some risk. But we think we've mitigated that risk to the greatest extent possible and are feeling very positive about the opportunity for the community and additional housing. The other two items that I have, Madam Mayor, just quick, is the RETA annual meeting happens in St. Peter. And so that's on Tuesday, the 8th. And so folks that might want to attend. Oh, it moved to Mankato? What in the world? Well, then don't go. I was going to say if you wanted to sign up, now's the time, and let us know. Keisha Ryan will help you get signed up if you'd like. And then in 2025, it'll be back here. Again, that's Tuesday, October 8th. RETA is a really important organization for us, which is the Regional Economic Development Group.
May I make a comment? There's an opportunity to have a table this year if we're interested. We usually have almost enough to fill a table. So there's usually members of the EDA that come and then city council members. So just keep that in mind. We could.
What was the date again?
October 8th. It's in the evening.
5 o'clock, isn't it?
I believe so.
5 to 8.
Yeah, there's a social hour in advance and meal and then presentations, and there's usually a very wonderful learning opportunity about some phase of economic development within our region.
They do a wonderful job organizing that meal. It's super learning opportunity, great networking opportunity, and so I highly recommend it, even if it's not in St. Peter this year.
All right. Madam Mayor, the last one that I have is just a reminder of the SIMPA annual meeting, which is happening on the, I believe it's the 16th and 17th of October. So if you're interested in participating, I believe information went out to you about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. Please let us know if we can help you out with that. Again, it's a great opportunity to continue to learn and work with our partners. And we talked about SIMPA earlier. Generally, there's fantastic information provided relative to the electric grid or MISO or other opportunities within electric utilities. This will be one of the times when SIMPA continues to talk about their forward momentum on use and growth of renewables. And so we continue to be excited about that. That's in Bloomington. So anyway, we'd encourage you to participate in that if you have the opportunity. Madam Mayor, that's all I have for reports, but I do have a request asking for a closed session to discuss potential real estate transactions at One Scholarship Way. The meeting is set up tonight that I don't anticipate you'll come back and take action on anything, but certainly I want to provide an update related to any negotiations that may be taking place. And so the resolution's included on your packet. It is the last written page of your packet.
Will we be staying up here? Will we be adjourning downstairs to the Traverse de Sioux room?
It's after 8 o'clock, so we're going to the Traverse de Sioux room.
Alrighty. The resolution, as Todd mentioned, is on page 176 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sharpston?
Aye.
Councilmember Voss?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Bettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Ring?
The resolution is approved. It is 8:20 PM and we will adjourn to closed session.
Hey.